Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Yes. All right. My name is Olienka Odenerin. I am the proud founder of Black Women Blockchain Council. Black Women Blockchain Council was created to help promote and increase the amount of Black women in the blockchain space. We also do not want to be left behind, so we created a space for ourselves to make sure that we're educated and also promote the different projects that are being built on the blockchain technology by Black women. You can find us at bwbc.io. And my background, I come in the way of compliance. I've been a regulatory compliance officer for over 16 years. I also have a master's in cybersecurity, and I recently passed my CISM exams.
My name is Adrian Gardner. I am a recovering senior executive from the Federal Service. I left Federal Service about 120 days ago, if we're counting. In that, yeah, I know, especially. In my position, I've held positions as CIO of FEMA, CIO of NASA Goddard, CIO of the National Weather Service. Also led cybersecurity at Department of Energy in the early days of a lot of the advanced persistent threat kind of threats across our networks. But now today what I'm doing is I actually started a foundation called the Smart Tech Nexus Foundation, which is meant to empower communities to empower themselves. And this whole notion of identity is an important discussion that we need to have right now, because each one of you has one. And you have to remember, when you click agree to the terms and conditions on every website you go to, you're giving up that right. So just letting you know, I'm starting with that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Damon Bryant. I'm a Howard alum, a graduate of the class 1995. So that's a while ago. So I'm also a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology from the University of Central Florida. I helped to redesign the graduate record exam for those of you who have taken the test to get into graduate school. That's the test that you have to take by the Educational Testing Service. I'm also one of the first creators of the computer adaptive testing system. So I know about narrow artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science. With the acceleration of technology, we are being displaced at a rate that's unprecedented in the history of the world. Why? It's the case because this technology is coming into place. It's efficiency, capitalism in its purest form. How do we begin to train and retrain individuals to enter into this global workforce? What are the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics that you need in order to compete? At the same time, how do you begin to, if you're not starting your own business, work in another organization and at the same time not be discriminated against? When you think about applying to jobs, there was a study published coming out of the University of Chicago and MIT on who's more employable, Emily or Greg, or Jamal and Lakeisha. Now, when you submit your resume to a top tech company or Fortune 100 company, these resume screeners, some of them are automated. At the same time, you still have a lot of humans reviewing the resume. When they see Howard University, that's a clear sign. That trash, trash, trash. When they see your name, Jamal or Lakeisha, you're not being even considered to make it to the first stage of the interview process. How do you begin to protect your identity in order to compete in a global workforce, and at the same time begin to skill and reskill, given that technology will change faster than the skills that you can acquire? So this thing about artificial intelligence, and you have all these computer scientists saying, oh yeah, I know about artificial intelligence. We don't even know what human intelligence is. We don't even know the capabilities of what humans can actually achieve. And that's my research. That is my applied focus. I've received millions of dollars in funding to build out institutions and build out organizations for learning and skill acquisition. The organization that I've recently started in the blockchain space is Exchange, where we are building the next generation of artificially intelligent systems to help individuals acquire knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics, while at the same time having your sovereign assets. And so that is your digital certificates, your diplomas, all the skills training that you've completed, and all the work experience that you have, and the ability to determine whether or not you want your employer to know who you are. This is something that will take place. People want to take back their identity. Facebook has made that abundantly clear. So this is one of the things that I'm helping to do within the blockchain-based space by taking back your sovereignty, taking back your identity, and actually at the same time acquiring some knowledge, skills, and abilities and other characteristics in order to compete in the global workforce. Thank you.
All right. See, my name is Rob Campbell. I'm a consultant, cybersecurity. I do cybersecurity compliance for organizations like financial and healthcare. And I just had a thought when we were talking about identity here. And how many have heard of quantum computers? Oh, wow, excellent. Okay, so we're talking about identity. Now we're talking about something that will strip away the total identity of everybody on the planet if we're not prepared for it. Currently, I'm involved in international peer review research, working with the NIST, which is National Institute of Standards and Technology. That's one of the organizations involved. And we are doing research and development, testing, validation, and verification on what we call post-quantum algorithms. These are algorithms that would supposedly protect your identity and everything else you have. We have a lot of people who've heard of quantum computers, so maybe I don't need to talk too much about what that is and the threat, I guess, unless there are any. But very, very quickly, essentially everything that you do, from banking to emails to web browsing to anything you want to store is open to the threat of quantum computers. And so we've been surprised about the progress of quantum computer research, and that's in the commercial world. They don't talk about the classified world. I'm an ex-military intelligence officer. I worked classified R&D, research and development for many, many years. Space engineering is one of my specialties. Computer science is another, and electronics, and so on. So you don't hear about what the real capabilities are, and it is not just the U.S., but we have everybody. It's a global race. We have North Korea, we have got Russia, we've got China. China is probably one of the main ones at the moment. They're doing this kind of research in space. They proved it several years ago. So who knows what's going on behind closed doors. So anyway, just to kind of introduce myself, I'm working quantum computing research and algorithms. I present internationally. Did it London. I'm going to Rome here pretty soon, and some of the other places around the world. But I bring this up in this blockchain conference because when we talk about crypto, some people who are not necessarily technical, they confuse crypto, the currency itself, with the actual algorithms that produce it and make it possible. So what I'm talking about is what protects your phone calls or your emails, or if you're working in classified or sensitive information. There are algorithms that make that happen, and that's crypto, that's cryptography that we work on. And so some of us practice breaking the cryptography, and some of us, the highly theoretical ones, they come up with these ideas. And but they're really, really different kind of people. I mean, like, you look at their equations, they're pages and pages long, and they say, oh yeah, this will work, but they don't have a practical grounding. Like, okay, a software engineer or a hardware engineer needs to take that theory and your equations and put it into hardware and software and make it work, program hardware devices. They don't understand that aspect. So then you have the software engineers and the hardware engineers. They may try to take these algorithms, and then you have those who just run testing on these algorithms once they implement it. Then you have people who do assessments, risk assessments, and that sort of thing. So my whole point is that there's a whole ecosystem associated with these technologies. Blockchain, I mean, there's nothing that new about blockchain, because what you're looking at is three technologies put together. First of all, distributed databases have been around for decades. Public key encryption and encryption algorithms have been around for decades. Fault tolerance, meaning that you survive a catastrophic event and you still can run your network, been around for decades. So all that they've done in 2009 and 2008 or earlier is put all these things together. So you got three technologies put together. So nothing mysterious about it. We can all do it. We can get our heads around it and understand it. We have to put it in the proper framework. So I don't want to take any more time, but I just want to introduce myself. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. All right, so as your moderator, I will ask you some questions. So when we think about blockchain, a lot of people, well, those who are less knowledgeable assume that your identity is anonymous when you're trading. Can you guys explain to the audience exactly what's behind this technology when it comes to making your identity anonymous? Because I think earlier we asked there was a question about cryptography. So since we have the experts here, can you please explain it to the layman's term so that individuals will understand a little bit better?
So I'll even challenge the question whether you can be anonymous. It goes back to my statement earlier. When you're clicking on various websites and you basically agree to the terms and condition or cookies on those websites, you're actually giving up your identity. And so, if you look at the EU and its general data protection regulation that's out there, and now I think it's in question because I don't know what the future of the EU is, not to be political, but I think that they got it right from the standpoint of what they're trying to do there to protect individual identity. And so this whole notion of, the technology behind it, I think that there's a concern that I have that I don't think the technology is at a maturation point where you can actually do that, where you can actually anonymize yourself from a perspective. You can decentralize the identity. Again, you can use different facets of blockchain to do that. But I also look at you also look at from a perspective of, the actual authorization, the authentication of that identity. I'm concerned on how that's all going to transpire. So for me, it's still, in my mind, hazy.
Sure. So I just want to make a clarification around like some of the basic cryptocurrencies that out when you think about Bitcoin. It's not really anonymous. It's pseudonymous in a sense. Someone like a data scientist like myself could pull down like the transactions and begin to trace. And actually there's trace the hashes, all the transactions, and determine what has gone to how many transactions gone to a particular person. And the thing is, there's research, government funding that has gone into tracking your transactions. That's a fact. At the same time, if there are other currencies such as Dash, PIVX, or Exchange, like in our currency, there's this particular protocol called the Zero Coin Protocol. I think Ethereum was attempting to implement it at some point in time. There's some quirks with it, but at the same time, to the degree that the Zero Coin Protocol is successful in anonymizing transactions where they're still able to track you, is on the on-ramps and off-ramps, it's the exchanges. So to the degree that you have to go through KYC, AML, and submit your identification, they don't care what you do in the interim, but then once you come off and you're just like, okay, I want to transfer into fiat, whatever that fiat currency actually is, that's where they're able to make transactions. And the government makes requests from those on-ramps and off-ramp exchanges. So just to be clear, the protocol, the zero coin protocol, in theory is a good protocol. In the implementation of it, there's been some quirks. But at the end of the day, even if you're able to implement zero coin, unless you're staying totally in crypto, they're getting you on off ramps. So that's the way they're still able to track and trace.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think you're talking about zero knowledge proof, right? Algorithms, which Zcash and Dash and some of those others use those, but I'm a cryptocurrency miner too. I started mining years ago. But there was always problems with implementation, and it didn't work. The actual covert address never really worked. But I mean, the other problems with issues with latency, meaning that it takes a long, long time. You know how Bitcoin takes a long, long time to get a transaction through. But things are getting better. Cryptographers around the world are working on it, and we have conferences coming up, and people are making breakthroughs all the time. I also teach blockchain, how to build them and how to hack them. And so what I would do if I wanted to find out who you were, first of all, your public address, public key, okay, I can track how many transactions you make going to your wallet. I know, I can look and see. It's public knowledge. But if I want to find out exactly who you are, I can do things. The government in our business and others in our business, right? We want to be free and, not being under 24/7 surveillance. So, I am, and many people like me who have that philosophy, we're working hard to stay ahead, and we are. I think we are. The government, by the time they figure out what's going on now, then, it'll be 5 or 10 years like it took them to get to Bitcoin. But anyway, yeah, you can hack these blockchains if you know how, but Bitcoin is like a public; anybody can get on. And then you've got other blockchains where they're like permissioned. You have to have permission to get on. They call them private or enterprise. A lot of enterprise blockchains. But again, the threat is so. Here's how it works. You have a public key, which would be tied for your wallet. Like say, okay, I owe you 5 Bitcoins, and I send it to your address. Well, in cryptography, there's mathematical operations going on. In order to get a public key for your address, I have a secret key. And through that computation, I give a public key. I say, oh, well, I can give you my public key because a conventional computer would probably take 500 years to crack that cryptography. But I bring up quantum computers, and it will take a matter of seconds, where I can take your public key, do mathematical calculations, and get your private key. So I can masquerade as you. I can steal all of your coins, or I can do anything I want. I've got your private key from your public key. So this is why this is such an international push to find something that will be safe. Not just blockchain, but just everything, internet, all your communications, everything, phones, satellites, everything.
On that note, I think let's take a question. I know we can keep
But it's
talking
ways
about
off.
cryptography, so we'll just have one
Hot topic
question.
here, hot topic.
One
All
question.
right, Chris?
So, you guys are experts. Is there a way to establish 100% anonymity without breaking chain of custody, in the sense that chain of custody is meant to preserve the legality of the transaction? So, is it possible to have 100% anonymity without breaking chain of custody? Theoretically.
Anything is possible
I mean-
theoretically, but
Yeah, I mean, my response to what he was saying was, and you know where the government has gone is, and they've increased the number of factors that it's required, right? You're really talking 2-factor, right? And then we start going 3-factor, 4-factor, 5-factor, so on and so forth. But how many factors can you have, right? And to then, again, not bog down the system from a perspective of the speed of that transaction, which was also what you said. So one of the challenges that we have, I think, in general is that I would say theoretically, yes, that's where we're headed, but in reality, I don't think we're there yet, right? But that, again, I think that's also some of the research you're doing. That is an opportunity, right? And I guess what I would say in response to this audience is, if you listen to the ambassador and her activities, what she's planning to do, we need to tightly couple this whole notion of identity, security with her efforts, right? Because if we can do it in that community early on, because right now we've got to break a lot of China for it to happen in U.S. markets, European markets, so on and so forth. This is an emerging market. So we should be thinking about how do we now think about the best research that we can apply to the blockchain implementations across the AU from a perspective of protecting that investment.
And I'd just like to state from an unclassified perspective. So right now, that technology just in unclassified, it's not there yet in terms of quantum computing. It's not there. So, however, it could be the case that there are 1 or 2 organizations in the world that currently possess the technology. If they possess the technology, why would they use it to find out how many Bitcoins that you have, to potentially leak that the quantum technology does exist? So you have to think about the target at the same time. Oh, no.
Well,
All right.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much. That was very interesting. Round of applause.
You're frightening me.